Welcome to new archaeological, theological, and astronomical discovery images of Laurel Smith for Chicago, Illinois. In this particular video, we're going to dive into the theological-based racism of the 400-year-old mistranslated European King James Bible text that actually denied the book of Genesis, 49 chapter and 8 verse, couching Giza Sphinx line of the tribe of Judah. However, this turned out to be the European Gentile nations, referred to in the King James Bible book of Genesis as Shem, and whereas the African civilizations is referred to as the children of Ham, and the Japanese or Chinese civilization is referred to as the children of Japheth. However, when the Europeans took over Africa and in boats from the northern coastline of Africa, we see that they inhabited the Judean desert, Jerusalem, and Egypt as Philistines and Greeks and Romans. However, when they settled in Jerusalem, they referred to the name Israel. So in the 16th century, 400 years ago, King James appointed 72 Greek and Hebrew scholars to travel to Judea, Jerusalem, and Egypt, and study the Islamic Aramaic Dead Sea Scrolls. It was a theological-based form of racism that affected them telling the truth in the King James Bible text. For instance, the European Gentile nations referred to a time after the biblical Babylonian flood of Noah. But if you look at the map, you'll say, okay, I see A, you put a big red A on Africa, and then you put a big red B on the V-shaped piece of land to the eastern coastline of Africa. So Judea is at the top of the V-shaped piece of land with a big red B on it. Jerusalem is under Judea, and then Syria under Jerusalem, and Iraq, which is where Babylon is under Syria. Arabia is at the tip of the V-shaped piece of land. If we do not use the after the flood of Noah time period in which the European Gentile nations, authors of the King James Bible, 72 Greek and Hebrew scholars, wrote this after the flood of Noah. But if we squeeze A, Africa, northeast coastline, back to B, now we have one huge African continent, which destroys European Gentile nations, leaving Babylon as Israelites and entering into ancient Egypt and starting Judaism. However, we already have the stone Babylonian 6-point star, and since the book of Genesis referred to the African continent, children of Ham, first kingdom of Babylon, Egypt, Judea, and Samaria. So in Babylon, we see a stone 6-point star that has a central sun. This completely explains the origin of Judaism when we see a Giza Sphinx face in the 12th planet of Nibiru position. But if we go back to the before the flood of Noah, the Babylonian African kingdoms already had a 6-point star with a sun. Not Jesus, not Jehovah, not any of the European false man-based Lord God were religion characters. So when we go to the book of Galatians, we already squeezed A back to B. So we go to the book of Galatians, it tells us that Mount Sinai is in a place in Midian, Arabia called Jabal Allawz. Now, most ministers, preachers, and pastors are familiar with the term Midian, Arabia, because that's where the caves of Jethro exist. But if you take a picture of the biblical caves of Jethro, out of wall, you see Giza Sphinx faces, carved in stone, and you see upside-down Step Pyramid E images. The same Step Pyramid E images that appear in the Dome of the Rock, outer wall area in which supports the Golden Dome, where we have an archaeological and theological and geometric proof as our database that the African continent children of Ham, Giza Sphinx line of Judea and Jerusalem, is the origin of Judaism. However, if we look at the book of Galatians, 4th chapter, 25th verse, it tells us that Mount Sinai, where the glowing circle of will in the will like U.F.O aliens landed, is in Arabia. So if we squeeze A back to B, everybody's familiar with the shape of the African continent. So that big red A on Africa and the big red B on the Z-shaped piece of land. Now, if we squeeze A and B back together, we have one huge African continent. Therefore, any traffic out of Egypt going east across the Euphrates River will end up in the Judean desert. Judean desert. Okay. Now, not Israel. It won't end up in no false European state of Israel. Okay. Remember, if we go back to Galatians 4:25 and the book of Genesis, Babylonian stone 6-point star kingdom of Ham. Now, we have destroyed the book of Psalms 105:23. 12 European-faced tribes of Israelites, or European-faced Israelites, leaving the all-black African kingdom of Babylon and entering into ancient Egypt and starting ancient Judaism. Regardless now of the already pre-existing black man facing a lion's body couched down in front of the northeast African continent, Isaiah 19:19 Giza pyramids. So as we go back and say, wait a minute, if this is true what you're saying, then we have been totally lied to by the European Gentile nations, or King James appointed 72 Greek and Hebrew scholars 400 years ago as they traveled to Judea and Jerusalem to write the Islamic Aramaic Dead Sea Scroll text, as they condensed it into 66 books in which we now refer to as the American King James Bible. But as we look at the aerial view Jabal Allawz, we do not see European individuals called Jethro. In fact, we see a stealth pyramid 39 Sphinx in Jabal Musa. Now Jabal Musa is the name for the mountain of Moses. So why would the European-faced Arabs refer to the Giza Sphinx temple ruins as the Temple of Moses? Now go back to regardless of this, we see the same stealth pyramid, Babylonian stealth pyramid Israelization of Ham, in the Dome of the Rock outer wall in which supports the Golden Dome. But if we go back and say, wait a minute, if they lied to us, they, meaning the European Gentile nations, when they wrote the English King James Bible, because of a theological-based form of racism against the black man face, in which we now see upon a lion's body in front of the northeast African continent, Isaiah 19:19 Giza pyramids. So let's go back and take a look at Jabal Allawz. The chief focus of ancient Judaism was our solar system, a sun in the sense of a 6-point star, and this 6-point star is surrounded by 12 planets. Okay, planet Nibiru is where the Giza Sphinx face appears in the Babylonian stone 6-point star. But let's go back to Jabal Allawz's Google map image. So we look at satellite imagery of Jabal, Jabal, Allawz, and what do we see? And you're going to be shocked that Laurel Smith, an Afro-American in Chicago, Illinois, has finally discovered the Giza Sphinx that was denied in a theological-based form of racism in your King James Bible that's read in every Afro-American church. So now let's look at Google map of Jabal Allawz. You say, oh my God, they done lied to us in the King James Bible. Who is they? The European Gentile nations. So the white man is lying in the Bible about the origin of Judaism, which is the African continent civilization of Ham, whose first kingdom of Babylon is where we see stone 6-point stars with a central sun. Not a Jesus in the 6-point star. There's not a false bearded old man image of Jehovah in the 6-point star. You can flush those false man-based European Lord God where religion characters down the toilet too. Because there was no Jesus or Jehovah creating the 5 billion year old blue basketball shaped earth in the black outer regions of space. In fact, that is what the 1 John 1:1 speaks of as the biblical light that existed in the black outer regions of space before it created the 5 billion year old world. So ancient Egypt is telling us through the solar theology of the black man facing the lion's body, called the Giza Sphinx Lion of Judah, that the sun, okay, is that magnetic rotating ball of hiding light plasma that comes up every day, is the origin of the human Ka, K, and Ba, soul light and my light. And that this is, if it's the origin of your light in your body called the soul light, then it's the origin of the 1 John 1:1 biblical light that exists in the black outer regions of space before it created the 5 billion year old world. But now if we go back to the solar theology of the black man facing the lion's body that was denied in the theological based form of racism, we're going to see that the white men tried to replace the sun or the biblical light that exists in the black outer regions of space before it created the world. So the white men in the King James Bible gave a bearded old white man, false man-based Lord God called Jehovah image, the credit of creating the earth and the sun and humans, which is false. But if we go back to Jabal Allawz, you're going to say, look at that. You already discovered a black man face on the ancient stone Babylonian 6-point star that has a sun. This is the Giza Sphinx Lion of the tribe of Judah face. Now, it was aired national on television stations by CBS, NBC, Channel 32, Channel 11. They all showed a robot going up the King Chamber air shaft. 200 feet beyond that, up in the air shaft, there was a hidden wall. When I took that same wall that was aired on national television, now remember, you had news media using special cameras, and they could not detect the Giza Sphinx face. Now, when I show you blowing up that wall, the gate tempering, hidden wall behind the King Chamber, you're going to say, look at that. So how come nobody in the news media pointed out that there's a Giza Sphinx face on the hidden wall behind the King's Chamber air shaft? Okay, well, when you see the video image, you're going to say, look, it looks just like the Giza Sphinx face from the North African Isaiah 19:19 Giza pyramids. But look at this. Remember I was talking about Jabal Musa in Midian Arabia? Now remember, the Bible wants to refer to as the caves of Jethro. If you're going east across the Euphrates River from Giza, lying in the tribe of Judah pyramid complex, you're going to enter the Judean desert. But if we look at images of videos, I'm going to put a few videos on here on where you're going to see the Judean desert. Okay, so this is, every king rules over a piece of land. So you say, what did the kings of Judah rule over? The Judean desert and Jerusalem. Okay, Judea and Jerusalem. Okay, and you say, wait a minute. That's right, every king rules over a piece of land. But then you say, well, what did Jesus rule over? Nothing. No land. Not even Jerusalem. And Jesus was never a king in Jerusalem. Okay, nor was the bearded old man false European face image of Jehovah. Jehovah was never a king in Jerusalem. So if we squeeze A back to B, the Northeast African continent to B, we have one huge African continent. So going east across the Euphrates River, from the book of Genesis 49, chapter and 8 verse, Giza Sphinx line of the tribe of Judah face that we now see couched down in front of the Northeast African continent, Isaiah 19:19 Giza Pyramid. If we go east from that pyramid complex to the Giza Sphinx, we're going to cross the Euphrates River and go into the Judean desert. And this is why when I show you the Judean desert, where the Bible called the biblical caves of Jethro are located. So again, why would the Europeans misname a Giza Sphinx temple ruin in the Judean desert? What you mean? Well, they're calling it the biblical caves of Jethro. Now you say, well, it was that done on purpose? Well, if you go to the biblical caves of Jethro, you're going to see upside down stone step pyramid carved in this mountain-sized temple. So, okay, that's what it is, a mountain-sized temple with Giza Sphinx faces on the outer surface. That's right. When we take a look at the book of Galatians 4:25, it tells us that the original will and will like U.F.O landing area called Mount Sinai is in Arabia. So this is a news bulletin for the 400-year-old mistranslated European King James Bible text, or thumpers. Because now we see that the traditional Mount Sinai was connected to a false European man-based Lord God world religion image of Jehovah, a bearded old man image of Jehovah that has a penis underneath his white robe. This is what I call the false man-based Lord God world religion image. But if we go to Galatians, Mount Sinai is in Arabia. Now we're going to use Google Map. We're going to look at the aerial view mountains of Jabal Allawz. Now when we do this, you're going to be shocked, because it's going to confirm years of research in which I proved there was a theological based form of racism by Europeans, white-faced Europeans, that it's 400 years ago in the 16th century. So King James appointed 72 Greek and Hebrew scholars to write the 66 books in the English European King James Bible. But these scholars had a theological based form of racism against the black man's face, which we now see upon the lion's body. In front of the Northeast African continent, Isaiah 19:19 Giza Pyramid. So using Google Map, we go on the aerial view Jabal Allawz in Midian, Arabia. Now many Christians don't understand what Midian, Arabia means. So I had to put everybody's familiar with the shape of the African continent. So I put a big red A on my video in the center of Africa. Then to the east of the African continent coastline is a thin strip of water called the Euphrates River. Now to the right of that we have a V-shaped piece of land. I put a big red B there. Now Judea is at the top, Jerusalem is under Judea, Syria is under Jerusalem, Iraq, where Babylon is under Syria, and then Arabia is at the bottom of the V-shaped piece of land with the big red B on it. So the white man used the incorrect time period talking about European-faced Israelites in Babylon, even though the book of Genesis says everybody upon the African continent is referred to as Ham. The children of Ham, African continent children of Ham, and the ancient kingdoms of Ham is Babylon, Egypt, Judea, and Samaria. It doesn't say the ancient kingdoms of white men or European is Jerusalem. No, scratch that lie. So now, if we go back to the oldest city in the King James Bible, it's the black African kingdom of Babylon. And where do we see the first oldest stone 6-point star that has the central sun? And a Giza Sphinx face. Now, I'm going to put that on my video. It's the origin of the white Jewish is really 6-point star. So here's a black man that was united in the King James Bible by European-faced Israelites that took over Judea, Jerusalem, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the Northeast African continent coastline. So we're going to go back to before the Babylonian flood of Noah. Remember, the word Babylon is for black kingdoms of Ham. Black people ruling Babylon, Judea, and Jerusalem. And they had a stone 6-point star. They had a central sun. So it wipes out the white face European Israelites lie. There's no white Jewish origin of the 6-point star, even though we see a 6-point star associated with Israelites and Jews. So let's go back to Jabal Allawz, the aerial view Google map image, which is going to shock you that when we look at the Google map image, we're going to see a black man's face generated by mountains. Now, just like if you go over the mountains in Tennessee, you can look down upon them from satellite imagery or from a helicopter or airplane. Now, if you go over any huge mountain, Mount Rainier or Mount Olympus, any mountain you look down upon from outer space with satellite imagery, it's going to show you the shape of the mountains. So if we go and look at the book of Galatians 4:25, 4th chapter, 25th verse, Mount Sinai is in Arabia. So we look down upon Mount Sinai, and guess what we see? In Arabia now, we're going to see a black man face, mountains generating a Giza Sphinx face. The case closed. You say, why? We just discovered that for 400 years, the white European King James Bible lies uplifted a white man called Jesus, a bearded old white man called Jehovah, as the king of Judea and Jerusalem. We can scratch that lie out of the King James Bible. Now who do we see? The king of Judah. The kings of Judah. Now every king rules over a piece of land. So when we look at the Google map, here's Africa, northeast African continent coastline, a big red A. Now to the right of it is a thin strip of water called the Euphrates River. To the right of that is the V-shaped piece of land where Judea, Jerusalem, Syria, Iraq, and Babylon is located. So we squeeze A back to B. Okay, we're going back to a time period before the Babylonian flood of Noah. Now we have one huge African continent. And why is that so important? Now if you draw a line from the black man facing the lion's body going east from the pyramids in Egypt, you're going to cross the Euphrates River and intersect the Judean desert. You say, you're not intersecting the false European state of Israel, European faced Israelites that took over Judea and Jerusalem. If you go there to, if you take an airplane trip to Jerusalem, or Israel, guess what? You get off the airplane and go visit the president of Israel, you're going to be shaking hands with a white-faced European in a black suit called President Netanyahu. Now you go to the White House and shake hands with the President of America, you're going to be shaking hands with a white-faced European in a black suit. Two white men causing trouble, President Netanyahu, causing trouble for the Palestinians and the Arabs. And then we have President Bush sending warships to Syria trying to take over the descendants of Ephraim and the descendants of Judah. Holy Land area. So this is what's going on with the War of Armageddon. Is started by white people in black suits. President Netanyahu, a white man in a black suit ruling Israel, and President Trump, a white man in the black suit trying to take over Syria and the remaining Golden Heights. Okay, now, and Iran. But this is where it gets interesting. If there was never a white Jesus or white-faced, bearded old man image of Jehovah being associated with the oldest city in the English King James Bible. So what is that city? It's called Babylon. Okay, and who started Babylon? Remember, everybody upon the African continent is referred to as the African continent children of Ham. So the ancient kingdoms of Ham is Egypt, Babylon, Judea, Samaria. So there's no white Jewish 6-point star in ancient Babylon. In fact, when you see this, Zachariah Sitchin, a Jewish archaeologist, placed this stone 6-point star on the internet with 12 planets around it. 12 planets in the Nibiru. You say, what Laurel Smith did was use the light of God, that light that flows through your eyes, flows through all around your cells. I use the light of God when I look at holy sites in Egypt, Jerusalem, and Judea. When I look at the earth from outer space, I use the light of God looking out my eyes. The light of the body is in the eye. where ministers and preachers use the same light of God that's pumping their heart, flowing through their brain, to look at and discern the truth when they look at holy structures, they will see what I see. Okay, so now you say, what? So what's going on? Well, guess what? The oldest city in the Bible is Babylon in the book of Genesis, the first book in the Bible. The oldest kingdom in the Bible is Judea, Babylon. Okay, now you say, wait a minute. So the oldest stone 6-point star belonged to the black African continent, the children of Ham. That's right. But now what the white man did 400 years ago, called King James, when he took a pen and appointed 72 Greek and Hebrew scholars to travel to Jerusalem and Judea and study the African continent, children of Ham, holy land of Jerusalem and Judea. What they did was they tried to ease the white European false-faced Israelites into the area between Egypt and Babylon. Now look at the world map. Everybody familiar with the shape of Africa. So I put that on my video on the big red A in the center. To the right of the African continent is a thin strip of water called the Euphrates River. To the right of that is a big V-shaped piece of land. Now that is important because before the Babylonian flood of Noah, A, Africa, northeast coastline was connected to B. That means going east from the black man facing the lion's body across the desert, you cross the Euphrates River and enter into the Judean desert. You say, oh, that's a major discovery. You don't enter into the false European state of Israel. So now what? Well, to prove it, that the aliens in the glowing circle of wheel in the wheel like U.F.O spaceships landed on Mount Sinai in Jabal Allawz and transported the black man's face, a kingdom of Judah, above the atmosphere into the outer regions of space. Now all this is written in mountain carvings. You say, okay, so we go to the original U.F.O landing site in the Bible. That's Jabal Allawz. According to Galatians, the book of Galatians, 4th chapter, 25th verse. We do not see a white-faced Jesus in a spaceship landing in Midian, Arabia. We do not see a white, false, man-based European Lord God world religion image of Jehovah landing in a spaceship in Midian, Arabia. Now, to make this important discovery known to the world, Laurel Smith of Chicago, Illinois, has took the Google map image of the area between ancient Egypt and Babylon. Okay, so now you say, now what? That's the Judean desert. There's no Israelites between Egypt and Babylon. Even if you go back in the Old Testament, the white man Bible-lite, King James Bible-lite, tried to place white people between Egypt and Babylon in the area called the Judean desert. Now remember, the book of Ezra, E-Z-R-A, the book of Ezra, 1st chapter, 3rd verse, states, let us go up to Jerusalem, which is located in the land of Judah, and build the house of the Lord God. Now they're not talking about building stealth pyramids in the Judean desert to a white man, because that's what we see in the Judean desert, stealth pyramids. Any traffic going east from the black man facing the lion's body in northeast Africa across the Euphrates River will end up in the Judean desert. Okay, so now remember, in the Judean desert we see Jerusalem, we see Midian, Arabia, caves of Jethro. Okay, so there was a misread when they say, well, the white man misrepresented the black man face in the book of Genesis 49 chapter and 8 verse, called the Giza Sphinx, lion of the tribe of Judah. So now he's going to call those ancient temple ruins going east from the Giza Sphinx across the desert. In the Judean desert, he misnamed them the caves of Jethro. Now even the white-faced Arabs in white robes in that Judean desert area, they're going to misrepresent the Giza Sphinx, lion of the tribe of Judah, holy ancient Judean desert temple ruins. So the white European-faced Arabs in white robes today call those ancient Giza Sphinx ruins in the Judean desert, they call them Jabal Musa, the mountain of Moses. Now when we go to the ancient Moses mountains, we see Giza Sphinx faces carved in stone on the outer stone wall of the Jabal Musa. Now, when we go to the tomb of Jethro, every white-faced Arab today in white robes in Arabia, white European-faced Arabs with beards, is calling the tomb of Jethro the tomb of Jethro. But you said, wait a minute, so what you doing? I'm going to use video camera to show you that the outer wall of the tomb of Jethro do not have white bearded Jethro characters. Jethro is an American name, American English name. So you say, okay, so what's the problem? White men took over the area between Egypt and Babylon, which is the Judean desert, where we see the tombs of Jethro, where it's the Giza Sphinx tomb and ruins. And then it's Jabal Allawz, where the UFOs are landing in the Old Testament. Now you say, how can you prove it? I'm going to use like, for instance, if you walk up to the pyramids in Egypt, you take a trip, you take your cell phone with you. So you get next to the black man facing a lion's body in front of the Isaiah 1919 Giza pyramids. Now hold the cell phone up above your head and take a snapshot of that black man face on the lion's body called the Giza Sphinx, lion in the tribe of Judah. Now you say, now what? Now what you're going to do is go to the tomb of Jethro, going east across the desert into the Judean desert. You're going east from the pyramids, the black man say, and they call that Giza Sphinx ruins and tombs the tombs of Jethro. This is a disgrace to African archaeology. Now, you say, if we go to the tomb of Jethro, what we're going to see? I'm going to show you. You're going to see the entrance to a stone, a huge mountain, where it's carvings on the wall of the mountain, and there's a cave going into the mountain. Now, the white people that wrote the Bible 400 years ago, King James of England, when he took his pen and appointed 72 Greek and Hebrew scholars to compose the 66 books about your African continent history. Well, what is that? They didn't want to represent the black man facing a lion's body, tombs of Jethro. Tombs, so they call it the tombs of Jethro. So if you go up to the tomb of Jethro on the wall, you're going to see Giza Sphinx faces. Black man faces with royal Egyptian headdress. Thick nose. So here on my video, you're going to see the tomb of Jethro is not the tomb of Jethro. They say, who is Jethro anyway? Who is Jethro? Would the white man want to uplift Jethro instead of the black Giza Sphinx lion in the tribe of Judah? So this is a theological based form of racism in your English King James Bible text. We already read that Mount Sinai is in Saudi Arabia in the book of Galatians 4:25. We already discovered that the book of Genesis called everybody upon the African continent the children of Ham. And that the oldest kingdom in the King James Bible is the African continent civilization of Ham, Babylonian kingdom. Okay, so this is squashing the white European false Israelites lie. Because we see now, upon the ancient stone Babylonian 6-point star, that has a central sun, we see 12 circles around the tip representing planets in our solar system. So the focus of ancient Judaism was not about a white European false man-based Lord God world religion character, such as Jesus or Jehovah. The focus of ancient Judaism was about the sun in outer space. In the book of Joshua, where the sun appeared to stand still and did not go down about a whole day. Now today with telescopes, we look up in outer space and we see the sun shining 93 million miles away across the black outer regions of space. So that is what the focus of ancient Egypt, Judea, and Jerusalem was. It was a solar theology of the lion sphinx of the tribe of Judah about the human, Ka, Ka, and Ba, so like mine like. And that was connected to 1 John 1:1, biblical light that existed in the black outer regions of space before it created the 5 billion year old world. So the sun that creates fruits, vegetables, apples, and oranges for the entire planet was denied in the English King James Bible by white people from Europe. Okay, that appointed 72 Greek and Hebrew scholars, King James. So they put a white man in the center of a stone 6-point star and called his name Jehovah. So this is why the false European man-based Lord God world religion characters denied the sun throne of God in the Bible, in ancient Egypt.